in this lesson, we're going to set up a custom camera. Alright, so let's go ahead and create a camera in our scene. To do this, we'll go to Create, and then we'll go to the Camera category, and we'll select a camera and drop that anywhere in the scene. Go ahead and right-click, and let's go ahead and just get this guy into position. Now, an easy way to get this into position is to select the viewport and change it to the camera. So here's what the camera's seeing. Now, whenever we're in camera mode, we can move the camera wherever we like. So we can move it just like we normally would with the regular viewport camera. And what I want to do is I want to have kind of this angle like this. Okay, so that looks good. And I might center him up just a little bit more. And there we go. Now I'm going to switch this back to perspective, so that way I'm not bothering the camera's position. And then I'm also going to rotate our character 90 degrees to where he's facing down this way. Then with this, we're going to take our camera and we are going to set it up to where it follows the position of our character. So what I want to do is I want to show you how to create what's called a custom flow routine. And what this will allow us to do is to contain certain bits of code into easy to manage nodes. Okay, so let's go into our flow editor, and then we can find this under Window, and then you'll see External Flow Editor. The External Flow Editor will allow you to create new scripts or new files. So I'm going to go to File, New, and you'll see that it comes up like a graph, just like our unit editor and our level flow editor. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create what's called an external input unit. And what this does is it creates an input on the node. So let's go to External, and then we're going to go to External in Event. Actually, no, let's do External input unit. There we go. And let's give it a name. So what I want to do is I want to create an input, and I want to name it camera name or camera unit. Let's do that. And then let's create two more just like it. Actually, just one more like this. So Control V, Control C, Control V, and let's call this target unit. So this could be like a player character or something like that. And target unit, Unity. There we go. So target unit, and then we're going to do an external in event. So let's right click and let's do external in event. Let's give it a name, and I'm going to call this, let's say, movement. And there we go. So now that I have these, it's basically just setting this up so that way whenever we see the node in another editor, we'll have these inputs. So we'll see something that says camera unit, and it's going to be looking for a unit. We'll have a target unit, which will also be looking for a unit, and then we're going to have this external event. And this is just going to allow us to create a sequence here. And I'll show you what that means here in just a moment. So let's go ahead and get our camera's local position. So I'm going to go to Camera, Get Camera Local Position. And the camera that I'm looking for is whatever the player inputs here. So I'm going to plug that there. We'll leave the camera open there. And then I also want to get the actor. So I want to get the unit. And in this case, I want to get the unit's local position. And we're going to go to Unit, and we're going to plug that in here. And then I'm going to subtract the local position of the camera from the target camera. So that way we create what's called an offset, because I don't want them to match. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a math vector subtraction. And we're going to plug in our target, which is going to be our player, into A, and our camera into B. There we go. Now what I need to do is I need to set up what's called a variable. And let's go ahead and right click, and we're going to go to set vector variable. So we're going to go down to variable, and let's set vector variable. Plug that right in here. And I'm going to plug that into vector. I'm going to give it a name, and I'm going to call this camera distance. Hit enter. And we're going to make sure that this variable is local. And then I'm going to create a sequence. Okay. Let's see. Flow control and then sequence. Now what a sequence will do is it will check for any events, and then it will do one and then the other, okay, in that order. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to get this camera distance once. So I'm going to go to flow control and once, and on the out one, plug that in here, and then we'll say out, set that variable one time, because we only need to get it once. And then what I want to do is I want to get my unit's local position, and I want to subtract it from that camera distance. Okay, and then I want to set the camera's new position. So let's right click, and we're going to use math vector subtraction. And then we're going to get the unit's position, and I want to subtract it from this camera distance value. So I need to get this variable. So I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go to variable, get vector variable. The vector variable that we're looking for is camera distance, so let's type that in. And then we're going to subtract those from one another. So again, we're creating that offset. And then we need to set the camera's local position. So we're going to go to camera, set camera local position. And we'll just fill all of this in. So the unit that we're looking for is our camera. So we'll get that. And then, let me pull this straight out. I like to keep things organized as I go along. So we're getting our camera, we have our position of that camera. We don't need the camera variable, or the camera input here. And then once it has finished getting that distance and it's offset that, I want it to come down into the sequence, and I want it to do this next by setting the camera local position. So it's always going to get that distance, and then it's going to go and set the position. So back and forth. And there we go. That should be everything that we need there. So with this, let's go ahead and save it out. And what this is going to allow us to do is give it a name. So I'm going to file save as, and let's put it in this script folder. And I'm going to call this camera move constraint. Oops, let me try that one more time. File save as, camera underscore move underscore constraint. I'll get rid of that other one. There we go. So now that that is saved, what do we do with it? Well, let's close down that external editor, and let's go into our level flow editor. And in the level flow editor, we're going to right click, and we want to get our cat foo character. So with him selected in the viewport, let's right click and let's create a level unit using the cat foo asset. Alright, so we're getting him, and now what I want to do is I want to get that flow subroutine. So let's right click and let's go to external flow subroutine. Let's get the flow subroutines that are available, and as you can see here, we have that script camera move constraint. Hit OK, and you'll see the camera unit input the target unit input, the movement, and then we have an enable and disable. So if we ever need to turn on and off the subroutine, we can do so. Right now, I'm just going to leave it on all the time. So let's plug in the target, which is going to be our player, and then I need to get the camera, which was what we're going to use. So I'm going to go to my level viewport. I'm going to select my camera, and let me right-click and create the level unit as that camera, and we'll plug that in there. Then the movement of that needs to update every single frame. We've already seen how to do that. Let's go to Event, Level Update. We'll plug that into movement there, and it's going to then execute that movement code every single frame, and the position of the camera will automatically update whenever the character moves. So now one final thing that we'll need to do is we'll need to set the active camera. By default, what it's going to do is it's going to use the viewport. So I need to set it to this camera. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, I'm going to go to camera, and I'm going to set active camera. Now one other thing that I want to show you while we're in level flow, you can actually hit the tab key and you can search for a node. So I'm going to say set, and let's say set camera, and let's say, alright, let's do set active camera. That's what it is. And there it is. So that's a quick way. Now this only works in level flow, not in the unit flow. But hopefully that will be updated at some point. And then we want this to be set active, not every frame, but at the beginning whenever the level is loaded. So let's right click, let's go to Event, Level Loaded. And then we'll take the out of that and put that into the in of the event camera. So now let's hit Control S, and let's go to our level viewport and hit play. And you'll see that we are now going to be using the new camera, and as I move my character, the camera comes along with him. So there was a lot of nodes, and it may be a little bit complicated if you've never seen nodes before. Maybe you have just very little scripting knowledge, but I promise the more that you use the scripting nodes and the flow editor, it will become more and more familiar, and you'll be able to create behaviors very quickly inside of Stingray. So now that we have our character moving as we would want, I want to start talking about how to create interactivity beyond the player movement and something like collecting items. And so we'll create a health pickup next.